And today I'm going to do a video on an oil change. Well, good morning, afternoon, evening, whenever you view this video. Today is Saturday, May 21st, and today I'm going to do a video on an oil change. Now, I know I've been saying I'm going to do an oil change for probably 2 years. I've done an oil change, I've just never filmed it. And performing an oil change on the ADV 150 is not rocket science. Probably one of the easier things to do maintenance-wise on this bike and many other motorbikes. Today I'm actually going to be going in heavy traffic because I want to get down to the dealership. I live in a very busy suburban area, as you can tell. Oh my goodness. Actually, I'm scratched at. I'll be sitting here forever, so I'll go the back way like I wanted to avoid, but may as well. So anyway, I live in a very populous area. This is a very busy intersection at the top of our street. They have a car wash right there that I pass, and the problem is it's like a madhouse at the car wash pretty much every weekend, so it backs up traffic at the red light and you got to sit through a couple red lights. It's crazy. So I'll go the back way. That's okay. I enjoy the back way sometimes. It's another beautiful day. I think it's 82 degrees. So I hope everyone's enjoying their spring, depending on what part of the country or world you're from. So I have 12,013 miles on this bike. I've done one oil change. I did my oil change when the owner's manual states about 600 miles. I think mine might have been 700 miles, but very close to that. So this will be my second oil change. Now the owner's manual states the first oil change, like I said, is about 600 miles after the break-in period. And then the second oil change, according to the owner's manual, is 4,000 miles. I'm sure the engine will be fine with 4,000 miles, but there's no way I'm going to wait 4,000 miles. I'm going to do mine seasonally, annually, and it doesn't matter what time of the year. I don't think it matters if you do it before winter or whatever. There's all kind of debate on that topic too. But as long as you change it regularly, I think that's the more important factor. So this will be my second oil change, and I've had this bike literally almost 2 years now. So that tells you that I don't ride as often as a lot of you out there. But since the oil change is cheap enough, I'll show you the price of the oil. I'm actually going to buy gear oil as well. There was a little discussion on my YouTube channel under the commentary, or the community tab I should say, about gear oil. What's the best type? Can you use the engine oil, the same engine oil as you do in the gearbox? And I suppose you can. There's debate on that too. When I called the dealer, the guy, he's a mechanic back in the service area, he stated that they use a certain gear oil for the gearboxes instead of the regular engine oil, because it has that moly in it. If a dealer recommends it, especially a service department, I think that holds some weight because they're experienced more than I would be. Now you can use the engine oil in the gearbox. I don't know if it's just going to do a good as job as the actual oil with moly in it, and I'll show you both here shortly. But this is the dealer that I bought. Are they open? Oh, okay, man, this place looks dead. But anyway, this is where I bought my ADV 150. So we're gonna go check it out. So the guy that I bought my ADV from was in there, and he told me an interesting story. I'm not sure who it was. Apparently somebody that saw one of my videos. He said he came from like the Dayton area to this dealership right here called Honda Fairfield. But he said a gentleman came from the Dayton area, and he said that he watched one of my videos, and that's why he wanted to buy an ADV 150. So the gentleman bought an ADV 150 from this dealership because of one of my videos. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, I guess my videos is starting to get around, but I mean, that's cool. That's pretty much how I found the ADV 150, is I watch videos on YouTube, and they had one at the local dealership. I've shared the story a lot of times, but pretty neat that somebody came down from Dayton to buy one of these. So whoever you are, that's cool, man. Very cool. And if you've already told me who you are, I apologize. I'm getting old, so forgive me, but I just don't remember who that was. Hopefully it's a subscriber, but I'm not sure. So if you're out there, give me a shout out. Let me know if that was you that came down to the Fairfield area. Shoo-wee, it's a hot day today, especially when you're sitting here in the sun on the asphalt. The guy at the counter questioned me. He's like, "What are you doing with the moly?" I'm like, "Actually, it's for my gearbox." And he's like, "Good choice." I'm like, "Well, you're probably the one I talked to to actually get this." But he said, "We asked because we do not recommend it in engines." There you go. And I don't know why. I didn't get into specifics for it with him, but they do not put the moly stuff in actual motor engines, and I don't know why, but they do use it in gearboxes. So just keep that in mind. But I asked him, I said, "Hey, I get a lot of questions, can you use the same oil for your engine in the gearboxes?" He said, "Well, yeah, you can, but the moly just seems to do a better job," and that's all I know. So there you go. I think the more important thing is, like somebody said in the comments, the more important thing with engine oil, gear oil, whatever, is regular maintenance and regular oil changes. What you use is not going to be the biggest factor unless you plan to use it for the life of the vehicle and never change it. Then you might see a difference. But if you do regular cycle changes on everything, it's really just a personal preference, you know what I mean? But I do regular maintenance. I do it more than it's required. Like right now, with 1,219 miles on it, I'm going to go back and do an oil change. So I'll film that and I'll show you guys what it's all about. It's literally, you take a bolt off, you drain it, you put the bolt back on, and you fill it from the other end. It's like the most simple thing you can do. So I think I'll explain it when I get back, and I'll show you just for fun. Pretty soon I'm going to turn left here because this, again, my ADV doesn't trigger red lights. So when the coast is clear, I'm going. If it doesn't change here in a minute, you're not going to sit here all day. There it goes. Never mind. when you loosen this bolt, the oil drain plug, it calls for a 17 millimeter, I believe. That kind of rounded the edges, so what worked best was 11/16 standard size socket. So play around with that, see what works best, but it shouldn't be too tight to get off. It's got a little spring action, so it makes a mess when you do this. The kickstand's in the wrong spot, the center stand, so it gets all over the place because there's really not a lot of room to put a drain pan under it, as you can see, so I made a mess. But the thing's very hot, especially after you're ridden like I did. So you'll need some gloves or some towels, and there's basically the oil filter and spring. So when you put it back together, you don't really have to buy a new one. You can clean that, and if you put it together that way, that black piece, the seal, goes against the engine, and then the smaller part of the spring fits into the socket or the drain plug socket, and that tension keeps that spring in there and that strainer in there. So it's a little tricky to get on because you got to put inward pressure, and the spring causes it to want to come back out. So you'll get the hang of that. But I eventually had to use a glove because my hands were slippery and it was hot. So there you go. Get the glove on. It makes a lot easier. But when you tighten this thing, don't kill it. Just tighten it a good snug. And I don't know what the specs are on the torque. I never had to worry about that. I just do it sensible, and you should be fine. Just check for leaks afterwards. So when you fill the bike, you want to get like a long-handled strainer like this, a narrow funnel, I should say. And it calls for 0.08 liters, which is roughly about, I think, 2.5 ounces short of the full bottle. So don't pour it all in. 0.08 liters, okay, and then check it with the dipstick, and then run the engine for a couple minutes, check it again, and then that's about it. Pretty simple, pretty easy. Thanks for watching.